All right. Hi, I am Barry of Feldman Creative, and today I have with me Deana Goldasich of Well Planned Web. Hi, Deana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me
Good
here.
to
So the
you.
reason why I have Deana here is I'm presenting what was my favorite blog post of the year. Deana wrote it. It posted on her site. It's called "Why the Mad Dash to Content is Coming to an End."
Yep.
So here we go. It had a thesis, and I'm going to jump forward to what Deana wrote and called the bottom line. But we're going to talk about many of the concepts in this piece, and bear with me here while I scroll through my PDF and
Sure.
find the bottom line.
Yep. I'll scroll with you, Barry.
Here's the bottom line. The bottom line, I'm quoting you now.
Mhm.
As with consumers, B2B buyers now have more information at their fingertips than ever before. They want to measure, learn, and form an argument, make a case to their boss, that was a parenthetical statement,
Yep.
before ever engaging with a vendor's salesperson. It seems it's more dire than ever for B2B players to play their part in meeting prospects with quality content.
Mhm.
All right, so
Absolutely.
so you wrote a piece that there at the bottom line sort of says you need content marketing.
Yeah, and you need to treat those buyers just as you would any consumer. We talk about how the consumer is so much smarter, the consumer is so much smarter. You know, these B2B buyers are smarter too. They're still going to do their homework. They're going to get on Google. They're going to look around and figure out, does this make sense for me or not? And they're really not going to want to talk to a salesperson until they feel confident that they've exhausted that research.
Yeah, I get into conversations like that a lot too. That you're further down the line when you actually will tolerate, that conversation.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay, but it's subtle there. You end that bottom line statement with the words quality content, which is really why it's my favorite story of the year and why I want to interview you. Because this story calls people out, I think, with the abundance of low quality content.
Yep.
And so, right off the top of the story, you call it the hype cycle. Looks like you did your homework here. You're talking about
Yep.
what are you talking about? The peak of inflated expectations, and you go on to say that everybody's doing content marketing, and everybody's doing it in volume, and it's a mad dash. Your metaphor that you use throughout the story, and those marketers were hoping their slew of content would skyrocket their Google rankings.
Right. Right.
Did that happen?
Well, good question. I mean, I don't. If it may have skyrocketed their Google rankings, but if it did, it may have been temporary. I think there's always been this mad dash for Google rankings as well. But the thing with B2B is you've really got to look at your leads. So even if you're high in Google rankings, but you're getting poop leads, what good does that do you? You've got to get leads that are actually qualified, that are actually going to convert in the end, that are going to stick around in that decision cycle. We call the decision funnel rather than the sales funnel, but that are going to stick around during that decision-making process. So you could bring 2 million eyeballs into that funnel, but if none of them are actually going to wind up following you through the decision process, okay, good for you. You got great Google rankings. You get to keep your job for another year, and you can show that to the CEO, and the CEO will go, good for you, nice job, and it'll look really exciting. But was that really the goal in the end? So.
Did you say poop leads?
I did.
Would it be okay if I called my blog post that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
All
Because,
right.
I mean, poop leads are, okay, unqualified leads. That's the equivalent of poop leads.
It's a shit with an asterisk in the middle.
Exactly. I tried to be okay with it.
All right. So
Trying to
who's
be family friendly here.
well, who's to blame here? Who's doing stuff wrong? Is it us content marketers misleading our clients that a steady stream of content is going to help them solve all their problems and meet their objectives, or is it the marketers putting poop out there?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. See, I got you started, Barry. I think it's shared blame. I think we all got very excited about content marketing because it felt pure, it felt fun, and it felt like a little bit validating for those of us who create content on a regular basis. We're saying, hey, this works. But in many ways, we kind of got ahead of ourselves and we started to, quote unquote, bastardize the craft of it. And we started to talk about how content was going to be this magic wand. There's nothing in marketing that's really a magic wand. Not anymore. Because if it's not part of the consumer, whether it's B2B or B2C, whether it's not part of their decision-making process, if it's not part of it, if it's really not locking eyes with them, it's poop content. You're just putting content out there for content's sake. And it really has to speak their language. And you know, you saw that term in the post, lock eyes with them. And really what that means is, as they're making a decision, you better know that decision process front to back and be super honest, super in their face, and being validating, calling things what they are, even calling out the ugly stuff about your industry, your business, or even the decision that they're making. And the more upfront you are with that in your content, the more they're going to trust you. And you definitely will not have poop content at that point. So I think we're collectively responsible, frankly.
Are you trying to rank for poop content?
I think I am. I don't know how many people are going to be searching for that, though.
Yeah, that might not be much competition. All
no.
Right. So you got to lock eyes. That was my next question, and you answered it proactively in that it means I am in my mentality, my content is very much taking into consideration your pain points.
Exactly, and you've got to know those pain points. This is something that's a hot button for us. You've got to know those pain points from top to bottom and spend the time learning the pain points. Not just talking about them in theory and talking about them in the air, but really understanding, you know, we talk about what keeps the customer up at night. Also, what is their, in the B2B world, what is their review based on? You know, when they have to go to their boss and justify a purchase, what do they need to bring into the office and lay down on the table? If it's a worksheet, if it's an ROI sheet, if it's a pricing sheet, you better have that sheet ready for them. You better have that information so that you make their job easy by giving them that information. You know, Marcus Sheridan talks about that with pricing. You better talk about pricing. It goes for B2B too. It's not just in the B2C world. Pricing is always going to be one of the top questions, and their boss is going to ask them. The people they have to speak to and answer to, they're going to ask about it, so you can't dance around the issue. So you got to lock eyes.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that, and I've discussed it before, and I don't see it read about much that this, adhering or feeding content to people really applies to all marketing, content marketing or not, based on what keeps them up at night, what are their pleasures, what are their pains, and it's rarely discussed in that it sounds almost vain or greedy that, you know, one of those, and it's a huge one, is, you know, success in their job. They want to keep their job, they want to get more money, they want to get promoted.
Absolutely. They're human beings. That's what we all need. We all want. You just have to, you got to fess up and look at the reality. And frankly, it's like calling the elephant out in the room. It's calling the content elephant out in the room. And once you do that alone, even if all you do is validate their job, their feelings, and what they're up against day to day, even if that's all a blog post does, all a white paper does, even if that's all they get, they immediately trust you. And they say, oh, you totally get this. You get what I'm up against here. Okay, well, guess what? You're now part of their process. You're part of that cycle and that decision-making process. We've seen huge success with it.
Good stuff.
Fun, actually. It's a lot of fun.
All right, next question I have for you, back to your post, and a nice segue, really, as we talk about the decision cycle, you said?
Yep.
You have a point here, and it's based on research, and much of your post actually is based on research from what's called the Demand Gen report. And that little point that I'll make here is that 61% of B2B decision makers say the winning vendor delivered a better mix of content for each stage of the purchasing process. And then you list that on a list of important things. So let's talk about a little bit of that. The key being, I think, obviously decision making, but the stages of the purchasing process.
Right.
What can you add to that? I mean, what does that mean? That's not about keeping your job or excelling at your job, or maybe it is.
You're right. You're right, because the keeping your job and excelling at your job is more kind of the psychographic side of it, and that's really more the emotion side, which we can't ignore. But the stages, so we've got, everyone, think of everybody's funnel, and there's one on the post also. But if you've got the awareness phase, they don't even know your name yet. They don't know you exist yet. They don't even know what you do. But then when the little light bulb goes on of, ooh, that's kind of interesting, I'd like to understand that a bit more, then they start to explore and start to look a little bit more perhaps at your website, perhaps at, some of your blog posts or what have you. And then they're in the mode of deciding whether or not, A, they need the type of product or solution that you offer, and B, whether you're the one that's going to actually deliver that. So in the beginning, where a blog post and some of your website content might be the job, then you start moving through that decision phase. And as you get into deciding mode, that's when you can start to show case studies and things that actually help them relate to somebody else who's either purchased your service or, a peer in the industry, not you, but a peer in the industry. And they can read case studies, testimonials, and really start to understand, okay, who's out there like me that's been up against this exact same decision, and do I trust them? And then the place we all want to be and where we love getting our clients to is when they're actually justifying and when they're actually this close to the actual purchase or the phone call to that salesperson. That's where you can really get some worksheets out there, information that helps them, again, go to their boss and justify, or the board, or, their executive committee, depending on the size of their business, and say, here's why, and they become your advocate at that point. They become your best salesperson because you've armed them with such great information. So that content, that worksheet, we have pricing worksheets that we do for our clients, and that content isn't going to resonate with the person who just learned that you exist. Yeah. It's going to be pushy at that stage. So
that's cool. I like how you get inside the minds of the B2B playing field that way.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now we really get to the point of your post, or the reason why it resonated so much with me is you're really, I think, we've talked a number of times already about poop. And so nobody wants their name associated with that. And the point of this post, I think, and a lot of the data that you've used to make your points, is that we're making too much content, we're doing it recklessly, and the decisions are not going to be made on the volume of content, which may never be discovered anyway. It's about the relevance and the quality of the content.
Right, exactly. So it's not who's loudest anymore. It's not about who's just the loudest voice out there. It's the voice that resonates. And your content has to be 100% relevant, significant, meaningful. We throw these words around all the time, but you've got to have the content that locks eyes and that is trustworthy, that hits the gut. And in the B2B world, I think we've ignored that for a long time. We think emotions with B2C. They're very relevant for B2B folks as well. And it's better to produce less content, but make that content matter, and they'll listen. It's kind of, when you speak, I listen. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room anymore. You can be really the one that listens, the one that when you speak, people think, okay, what you're about to say is going to be important because you're not blah, 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 blah all day long. So I think it's interesting how we've evolved now. It used to be just go, 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 produce, publish, publish, publish. It's still important. I mean, you can't go dark. There's no question about it. You have to be there during that cycle. You have to be relevant with distribution of your content. You've got to get it out on LinkedIn. You've got to get in those groups. You've got to get in those boards that are happening in certain verticals and certain industries. You've got to be relevant and present in those conversations, but you've got to bring content to the table that's not just look at me, but really is about, hey, we know what you guys are up against, and we see this every day because we work with companies like yours, and here's what we have to help you out today. It's not, call us. It's not, it's not in your face, but it really is. We found that here's what we see as the solution. What do you guys think? And just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think you're also suggesting that the content is the deepest. It's something that's going to be saved or printed and presented. Like you talked about your clients championing your cause. They're an advocate trying to get the boss to write the check. And so, yeah, I think, I think probably nobody's more guilty of overdoing the volume of content than actual content marketers doing content marketing. And right, so on any given day, you're going to see like 100 stories about how to do Facebook advertising better, how to get more Twitter followers, or how to write a better headline, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying don't do that. These are the things you care about. But can you do it better than anybody else, or are you just going to be another me too?
And you just said the magic word: go deep. It's go go deeper with your content and even spend more time, spend an extra week on that content that you're really you want to publish it. You want to hit the big fat red publish button. But guess what? If you have a report sitting on the side of your desk that you know you could dig some great stats out of or get some great quotes out of that are really relevant to that post, spend another week on it. Put it aside. Spend some time on it on a Friday afternoon when things have quieted down, or a Monday morning, whatever's best for you, and find the right time to go deeper on it. We're actually finding that with us. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say it, but we're actually publishing less content now than we ever have, yet we're going deeper with a post like this one, where we just decided, we're going to stand our ground and bring some stats to the table, and we're going to get on our soapbox, but we feel passionately about it. And now we're actually doing that for our clients too. We've got some passionate posts for them where we're digging deep, we're getting research, we're getting stats, and we'll send it out using Marketo or Pardot or any of those, and their clients are now responding and saying, man, that was a killer report. Huh. And, it's not as frequent. We used to be, get out there once a week. That's awesome if you can do it, but go deep. Don't do the superficial content anymore. It starts to become noisy. So that's what we're finding anyway.
It's interesting. This isn't a question, just an observation or an FYI, because we both are friends with Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media, and he was my last interview, and we were talking explicitly about creating blog posts that rank high, and we had a long conversation with those two words, go deep, maybe the theme going forward.
Yes, that's interesting. See, I've got to talk to Andy about that now, too.
Yeah, we're locking more than eyes. We're locking brains.
Yeah, man.
All right, so this post, the Mad Dash, concludes with a 5-pack of takeaways, and they're going to be a little bit redundant with our conversation so far, so let's just rapid fire through this 5-pack. Sure. All right, number 1, this is the lesson, the takeaway. Immerse yourself in your audience. I highlighted what makes them tick, what keeps them up at night. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are so passionate about this. This is actually our first phase with any new client, and we actually will not work with a client unless they agree to take that step. And it's a big investment. In terms of dollars, it's a sizable investment, but we have a whole process for it. And at the end of the day, we have a deliverable that becomes sort of an onboarding document for even their employees. So, we talk about audience profiling a lot, but it's really not just a document that we need to produce and then, put on the shelf to collect dust. That has to become an accountability document. That really has to be something that you use when you're coming up with your distribution strategy, when you're coming up with your editorial calendar. When the CEO comes in the room and says, I've got a great blog idea and I want to do it today, you pull that out and go, okay, where does it fit in our strategy? What audience does it map to? What need of that audience does it map to? Why is that mission critical content? And if it's not mission critical, you've got to have the courage, no matter if it's the CEO, CMO, director of marketing, whoever, the client, to say no and be that client, that customer advocate to say, we're not locking eyes, we shouldn't spend the time producing. And that's where, immersing yourself in the audience helps you document what the needs are, what the hot buttons are, and then map every bit of your strategy against that all year long. So, hot buttons.
All right, number 2, examine your buyer's journey. So you say here the content you create to generate awareness will be different than the content you create to justify the purchase. And we've talked about that a little bit. Any comments to add to number 2?
No, except the fact that a lot of us still spend time in that awareness bucket because it's comfortable, and a lot of companies still are trying to get eyeballs rather than move those eyeballs and help the light bulbs go on. So it's okay to get the eyeballs in that awareness phase, and that just tends to be where most of the content and the editorial calendar starts to float more in that awareness part of the funnel. You can't neglect those other pieces. Those folks that are starting to move to the funnel, hello, those are your warm leads. Start to move them along, lock eyes.
All right, number 3 is to commit to creating mission-critical content, and you like metaphors. The metaphor here is about marriage, about proposing marriage. Right.
So I mean, you don't want to create content that is just superficial or trite, or you basically, if you don't lock eyes, it's just a wasted effort is really what it comes to. So if you're not committed to it being mission critical, why spend the dollars and the time and the energy? So even planning it.
Well, you didn't go with your metaphor, but I think I can
Okay.
extract that. There's a difference between a pickup line and a marriage proposal.
There you go. There you go.
Number 4, drop the machine mentality. What do you mean there?
Man, this one gets me fired up. So, and I think this actually goes back to, this goes back to our conversation before where we started, which was we've kind of created our own monster. We as content marketers, and there was even, at past conferences we've talked about, you've got to build the content machine. And we've gotten very consumed with that machine and being able to go back to management and say, hey, we've got machines, we've built machines, we're churning out content, we got a blog going up a day, boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's all good, but again, we're finding, and that's what the demand gen report shows, that the machine isn't necessarily the secret sauce anymore. The quality actually matters more. People that choose a vendor aren't saying that it's because of the amount of content that was published. They're saying it was the quality and how it did lock eyes with them. And that's what was awesome about this. I felt like it's actually proving for all of us who produce content, quality matters. Don't just pump it out. And a lot of copywriters feel this squeeze daily. Just produce it. Produce the case study. Produce the blog post. Produce it. Go, go, go. Poop content. Well, guess what? You poop. You poop, poop. There's not going to be quality there. So if we get rid of the machine mentality and start to return to quality and love and actually who's reading it, think about who's at the other end. Is it going to matter? Is it going to be relevant? And so we have to drop that machine mentality. And I see a lot of folks who are just understanding content marketing. You and I have been in it for years, but there's some C-level folks who are just starting to get it, and they're starting to drill into their teams and go, we got to start doing this. You're right, you do, but do it responsibly, and the machine is not necessarily the right way to go. So,
yeah, I think you can come at that from a creative or a copywriter's point of view with this. The job is to fill a informational void, and hopefully, throw in a little education or a little entertainment along the way so that it's fun to consume the content. It's not to fill a space or a gap otherwise. And so the machine mentality is like, give me 1,500 words. I read somewhere that 1,500 word posts work, and my response would be 1,500 words. Why?
Exactly. And you know what? You just said it. You just said the magic word, which is why. And when we talked about that documentation and mapping to goal and mapping to the needs and so forth and those audience profiles, that's what that answers. You have to say, point to me why. And we have to have the courage. We as content marketers have to have the courage and the confidence to say, why are we doing this? And I think there's a lot of folks who feel like, well, we're being paid to do it, so we shouldn't ask that question. No, be the advocate. Be the audience advocate and be mad about it. Get mad, get angry, point at those documents that you spent so much time crafting and hold each other accountable. I just keep seeing people going through the motions, and it hurts me. It literally pains me to see companies go through the motions. And I actually had a client say to us the other day, they feel like they pay us even just for our candor alone. And his point was because we just say, stop it. We go in and say, we need to stop the insanity. That's exactly what we did for them. We looked at their editorial calendar and said, okay, it's full, but it's not great. We need to go back and ask the why. And then we went into the audience profiling. We did the whole process, and we did an audit, and we cleaned it up. And now they have a relevant calendar going into 2015 versus just chock full for the sake of being full, and like you said, filling in the spaces. Yeah. That shouldn't be the goal.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You might have foreshadowed number 5, but in number 5 you say listen, measure, and pay attention. So you're also talking about analytics. And you close with create meaningful content in response to any pushback, questions, or doubts you encounter. I love that. So let's close with that one.
Mm-hmm. So, and that means listening to your customers, and that means anyone who writes content for you or pulls a strategy together for content. That when you're talking to a customer, even during a case study, we were talking about this earlier, if you're getting case study information from them, if they bring up something that you've never heard about, dig a bit. find out a bit more about, and find out what are the doubts, what is the pushback that you're hearing, and don't ignore it. And the more you acknowledge doubts and acknowledge pushback, again, that trust starts to come in. It's like the ugly little squiggly worms we don't want to look at. Guess what? Those are in the top of their minds as they're making that decision. So acknowledge them fast and get to them. So.
All right, let's wrap on squiggly worms. Congratulations on this great post and the way things have gone for Well-Planned Web. And thanks for joining us. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
Brains. All right, thanks.
Thank you. That was great.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Barry.